So this is a vlog about the realities of keeping chickens. And I've got to think about it now. Remembering when we first started keeping hens, I say chickens, it's normally hens, and we've had cockerels. So when we first started, we were living in Devon. So it was 2003, and we had a house on the edge of a valley that dropped down to the river, the Tor. It might have been Tor at that point. Dropped down to the river. So part of our land dropped down to a road that ran along the bottom. Not a proper road. It was called Roll Road. So one of the guys that worked at the nursing home that I was managing, flies, built me a chicken coop and run on one of the terraces down to the river. So it's quite steep, and I'd never kept chickens before, and I can remember feeling nervous about handling them, but knew that I needed to get used to handling them. So you know, chickens. The thing about chickens is they panic and flap, which people then panic and flap. You know, it makes you panic and flap. So you have to not allow yourself to do that. And there are ways of holding chickens, and I don't ever do them. But there are ways of holding chickens by clamping their legs between your fingers, and but I just either manage to grab them before they start flapping with holding their wings and body, or fold their wings down to hold them. So yeah, that was when we first started keeping chickens. And so you start off and your coop's all lovely and clean. You got fresh bedding. I think we were using sawdust at that point. Fresh bedding inside the coop, and it's all lovely, and the chickens have got a run, and I think the run was probably the size of half a garage with a view over the river. So they've got a lovely view. And once we bought 4 chickens. I can't remember what they were, Wyandotte and Welsumers, that are chickens. So 2 of each, 2 Wyandottes, 2 Welsumers. And once they'd established where home was and their run was, we could allow them to free range. We've always free ranged our birds, and there are risks in that, but we've always free ranged our birds. So eventually we let them out. So they had to come along a narrow strip about this wide. I had to come along that narrow strip. It was quite a drop on my right, and along the narrow strip, and then up the steps into the garden. And so that's what they did. So they free ranged up there, and very quickly you realise that they poo, and the coop becomes full of shit, and you're going to need to clean it. And that really is meant to be a weekly task, and probably was, because I was 20 years younger than I am now, and these were my new chickens, and I'm going to clean them out every week, and I'm going to do all the right things. But yeah, they need cleaning out regularly, new bedding, and then they can poo on it again. I think they might have had roosting bars in the coop. I don't remember. I mean, it was like a big half shed on stilts, so they could get underneath it during the day if they wanted to, or they could climb back in during the day. And it had got the opening box at the back of it for you to take eggs out of. So that was really lovely, and you have your eggs, and it's just, yeah, I can't explain it. It's something magical. Even now, 20 years on, is it 20 years on? More than 20 years on. Even now, there's nothing better. It's still magical to pick up an egg or 2 from a hen. You know, it's just like, oh, you know, and I always say thank you. I always say thanks for the egg. So yeah, that was our experience in Devon. And then one day they were out happily playing in their garden, when a neighbour's dog, not the immediate neighbour, but a house further along, came in and attacked them. And I'm not really sure whether we lost any in terms of death, but I remember one being very badly injured and surviving in a hedge. But I might have lost 2 hens then, I'm not sure. So even when they're in your garden and it's not a fox, and I think that the dog was being walked along Roll Road at the bottom and it's just off. And so that was that. And then obviously we replaced them. There was a place in Devon called Devon Rare Breeds Farm where you could buy, that's where we bought these from. So we replaced them with possibly silkies, not silkies. Anyway, we replaced them with a small breed. And also we bought hatching eggs from there at another time and had a smaller coop, one of those arcs, and put a broody in there with some hatching eggs. And she hatched, I think only 3 of them hatched. And I also remember before that a friend of mine, Julia, who lives on Shetland, sent me by post 4 Shetland hen eggs. I don't remember the chronological order of this. By post, they arrived from Shetland the following day in Devon. And another friend of mine from the Poultry Forum, and I'm sorry I can't remember his name, lent me his incubator. So we incubated the Shetland hen eggs in an incubator. That was really exciting. And because they were hatched all 4 of them hatched, even though they'd come by post. We were mum and dad, and I was mum, and so they would come and sit on my lap if I sat on a step in the garden. They'd come and sit on my lap in the evening. And they turned out to be, I can't remember, I think maybe 2 of them at least turned out to be cockerels, which we didn't want. And I had one of my employees at the nursing home, Heather, willingly came and culled them for me. I think she prepared them so that we could eat them, but they had to go in the freezer for a while so that I could separate and I am able to do that, as you know. It's not an issue for me, but at that time, it was like, oh, I can't eat them today. I'll put them in the freezer, and then at some point we'll whatever. And the thing is, it's also better to freeze them. It's better that the meat's been rested, or that you freeze them, because that sort of breaks the muscle up a bit, so they're not tough. As I recall, they were a bit tough because they weren't bred for food. They're quite a slim breed, the Shetlands. So that was our hen keeping in Devon, and we learned a lot. I learned a lot about how much they poo. That's the most important thing. If you want to keep hens, then first you need, you've got those igloo. I can't remember what they're called now, which look really pretty. Everybody wanted one, those plastic green things with a small run attached and special dispensers for water and food. But that, you need space, because an igloo, is it called an igloo, is going to fill up with poo really quickly, and the grass in the run is going to be very quickly decimated. And I know you can move them around, but it's just, I know it's nice if you've only got a small piece of land, then a small garden, then it's ideal, but they take a lot of cleaning out. And I can bet you many people who've started keeping hens with an igloo have either given up within a year or 2 or moved on to something bigger. So ideally you want something bigger. The other thing you need to know is that there's a thing called onduline, which is a roofing material that can be put on top of a pitched roof coop or a flat roof coop. Really not a good plan. Roofing felt, not a good plan, because the red mite love it in the conditions under there, the humid conditions. So you get, when you're also on a small scale, if you're working on a small hen coop, the conditions are quite ripe for red mite, and red mite are really difficult to get on top of if you've got them. You know, you have to, if you've left it and you've got quite an can't think of the word, but you know, you really struggle to get on top of them. So yesterday, when our coop was cleaned out by Ludo, and our coop is like a garage, so it's a big garage brick building, but it does have some wood along the window edge. It's not a window; it's an opening that's got lots of fine netting, fencing, but not fencing material, wire, chicken wire, but smaller than chicken wire, smaller grade. So it's a window opening, but there's a wooden frame on that. But I put diatomous earth down to deal with red mite, or hopefully deal with red mite. Don't have any in there at the moment that we're aware of, because when you do have an infestation, that was the word I was looking for. When you do have an infestation, that's something else crawling on me. You come away, if you've picked up an egg or you've stroked a chicken or whatever, you come away and you can feel red mite crawling on you, and they're so tiny. You have to look really hard, but you can see them. But you look really hard and think, oh my God. And then you can feel something crawling in your hair and you think, oh my God. So yeah, the smaller the conditions the hens are left in, the more like that, you know, you're more open to infestation of red mite, respiratory problems if it gets too humid and the hens are not getting enough flow of ventilation. They definitely need ventilation, but they don't need a draft. So, and anywhere that you've got ventilation coming in needs to be very well covered with chicken wire, and a finer grade than, because chicken wire is about that grade, but you want something smaller than that, because a foin, a stone martin can get through that, and the stone martins will come and take the heads off your chickens whilst they're sleeping. That's also something we've experienced at least twice here. So they're open to predators, foxes, stone martins, rats. I don't think we've ever had problems with rats in our hens, but rats, the food bin, the food trough can be spoiled by rat pee, mouse pee, so you need to keep on top of vermin, and of course vermin are attracted to your food in your chicken coop. Lots of stuff. Another thing that's I've just remembered about respiratory stuff is that bedding that you should use is straw, not hay, especially if you're raising chicks, babies. Because the hay, when it gets moist, creates fungal spores that get into their lungs, whereas straw doesn't do that. So it's always straw, never hay. Mark was talking about it yesterday, calling it hay, and I went, it's not hay, it's straw. It's not hay, it's straw. But so straw, definitely, when you're using bedding. So that was Devon, and then we came here, and then we were about 6 months without chickens whilst we got ourselves established. But there was a massive area down there, the now chicken coop and the 2 runs down there, which was full of crap, and still is full of crap, I know. But a lot of the crap was moved. And first of all, we started keeping them up here in these grotty old sheds up here. We first started keeping chickens in the small shed here. I think that's what we did. Anyway, friends came over in April of the following year that we'd moved here and cleared out the 2 runs, had bonfires. There were lots of animal cages there. There was a dog kennel there that had still got shit on top of it, and the dog kennel belonged to our neighbour who keeps dogs and had a dog kept down there with his poultry. I don't know what he kept. He might have kept rabbits as well, as a guard dog. Somebody mentioned in comments on my other videos at some point about, keeping a dog keeps the foxes out, but I wouldn't keep a dog for that reason, because I'm not a dog lover. I don't hate dogs, but I wouldn't want to own a dog and be responsible for it. I don't love them enough to own a dog, just to be sure, because I think somebody got angry with me when I went, I'm not a dog lover. I'm a cat person, not a dog person. So I wouldn't keep a dog just for that, because that's not fair. So yeah, so that all got cleared. A lot of clearing went on, a lot of pulling down odd looking things. I think he bred rabbits. I think he still does. So it would have been on the edge of the big Barney type thing down there, where I suppose brick built shelves that would have had rabbit cages on them. Actually quite good if you think about it, because not that you will, but I know the geography down there, that faces west, northwest. So that would have been comfortable. I've seen rabbit cages in France that have been facing the sun, and I think it's just awful, because they're rabbits that are kept in cages to eat. They're not, so they don't get to run around on the grass. They're just kept in cages, and I sort of think some of them probably just die of heat exhaustion. Unsurprising, because a lot of them are facing the sun, but these wouldn't have been facing the sun. So that was all cleared out. So now our chicken headquarters is a big garage, brick built shelter with a tiled roof. The tiled roof has now got tarpaulin strapped onto it, because when we had a tree taken down in there, it cracked off one of the tiles, and to just for Mark, it was easier to put a tarpaulin over the lot to keep it dry. So it does stay really dry now with the tarpaulin. No red mite at the moment, but I use diatom, and and it's so well ventilated. So when Ludo came yesterday to clean it out under the roost, Mark made a roost. Has made a roost out of branches from the garden. That's another important thing. A lot of the commercial coops, have roosting bars in, but the roosting bars are square, and roosting bars shouldn't be square, because what happens is the bird sits on it, and because it can't lock its feet round, the branch needs to be about this size, because they can hook under and lock, and they lock on it, so they're sort of squatted, not sitting. Give them a square one, and the commercial ones are smaller. They have to rest their breastbone on it, and it deforms their breastbone. So branches from the garden, suitable size branches, as I say, about that size. So Mark has made a roost that everybody roosts on down there, and so the poo drops down onto the straw pack. So when Ludo took that out yesterday, I expected to see more. I imagined he'd take out more, but he didn't, and I don't know whether it's because we've not had as many hens as usual. I'm sure it's been there since all winter or over winter. I don't think that we've done the coop for months and months and months, but he didn't take out a lot, but it looks fine, and I'm happy about that. So when we go away and our house sitters come, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it probably will do. People will look at it and think, oh my God, it's dirty, it's dusty. The dustbins with the food in are dirty and dusty, but it is just dust and poo. In a few days' time, it'll be dust and poo. But that's what chicken keeping's about, and it's never tidy and clean. And if you saw how chickens were kept here in France, most of them, what we're doing is quite luxurious, because a lot of them are not given straw for bedding. They're not given bedding, so they're just on a dirt ground with dirt. And I don't know. I mean, they like scratching around in the straw. Maybe they don't need the straw, but I think it's helpful when you're collecting poo to have it dropping onto straw and not onto bare ground. I don't know. So the realities are, so we've just, this last 6 weeks, we've lost 2 hens, 2 a fox. We had friends here 6 weeks ago, and we were sitting in the garden, and Jane said, oh, there's a fox. and that was 5 or 6 in the evening. So we rushed out, put the chickens away, because I thought, oh my God, it's a fox. Put the chickens away, locked them in, and then locked them in for, they still have, they're let out of the coop in the day, but they're just restricted. They have a restricted range. And kept them in for 3 or 4 weeks and just thought, okay, you better be a bee. I think you are, aren't you? A little solitary bee, heavy with pollen. Kept them in and then thought, well, I'll be all right now. We'll let them out. Lost our white one, Azure, which laid blue eggs. Within 2 days, she was gone. The little bit of white feather left, nothing much to show where she'd been. So we locked them in again and kept them in for 4 weeks. And then today is Wednesday. Last week, I let them out on the Monday afternoon. I thought, oh, I'll let them out now. They've been in 4 weeks. It'll be okay. Let them out Monday. And by Wednesday lunchtime, our Marin had gone. Heard her. She put up quite a fight. I heard her. Thought she was laying an egg, because they shout like that when they're laying an egg. Mark says they're shouting for an epidural, but no, I don't think they don't shout when they're laying the egg, but they normally shout about it afterwards. Hey, I've laid an egg, or oh my God, what's that that's come out of my bum? So yeah, I heard her and just thought that's what I heard, but I heard her being taken, and then a mass of feathers and a hole in our hedge, or taken through a hole in the hedge where Mark had put up some wire and he'd put up netting. So at a level of about a metre, there should be, it should be protected, but it isn't. There's holes in it. So when Ludo was here yesterday, I gave him some bits of old fencing and grillage to put there to cover the holes, but I don't think that'll make a difference. So that's it. So then we went out on the same day, because I didn't want our last hen, Mrs. Brahma, to be left on her own. And we decided that we were going to continue hen keeping, because once you start and once you get used to your own eggs, it's so difficult going back to bought eggs. It really is. So we decided, yes, okay, we're going to get hens. So I looked on Le Bon Coin and found somebody 20 minutes away who was selling hens, and we came back with 3 naked necks and a normal looking hen. They're all typical farmyard colour, so sort of an orangey brown, and they're young, so they're not ready to lay yet. So in about September, we're going to start being overrun with eggs and have to start giving them away. But I love that. I can hear swifts up there catching the insects. Very noisy. So yeah, they won't start laying till September. I love giving eggs away. I know that it's costing us money to feed the hens, but we have the enjoyment of eating our eggs, and the pleasure of giving our eggs, nice eggs, to other people. And I hope that by October we'll be able to free range them again, and that the foxes will have all found other means of food. I don't know, but we've always free ranged here, and we haven't had any problems with being taken by a fox for years. I think a year after we started keeping hens here, I started keeping breeding hens. I bought an incubator and hatched sasso eggs, and it's not a breed. It's a cross between something and something, that they're bred for meat. And I hatched, I think we bought back 12 from the UK, hatched 12 sassos. They were by 15, 16 weeks, they were enormous. The cocks were like, but I wasn't able. I took them to our friend, took two to our friend in De Sèvres, Mojo, who's not alive any longer. But it was one of the chicken keeping masters on the poultry forum that I was a member of. I took them over there to be taught how to cull them and pluck them. There's a Tour de France coming through, and for females about 2 kilometers away, and I can now hear the noise. What was I saying? So I took them over there for him to teach me how to do it, and I couldn't pull out the feathers. I couldn't do what he taught me. I didn't have the strength, and then I didn't have the strength in my hands to pluck them, and hadn't known at the time, but I'd got carpal tunnel syndrome, so I couldn't do that. But we carried on breeding for food and took our chickens to the local small animal abattoir. And then one day, my 15 babies, which they're beautiful babies that I was growing for food, but they were really cute. One day I could hear, when I went out to open up the chicken house, I could hear a dog howling. And I got down there, and it had broken in to the run, and it had broken in through a pop-hole door that it had opened, and then that had closed on it, and it had got stuck, and it looked like a young Newfoundland. So it was looking really sorry for itself, but it had killed all my chickens. And I was devastated, but at the same time, I know that he was just being a dog. But I was more angry with the owner who owned the dog, who had not kept the dog secure so that the dog could roam, because the dog had come 1 kilometre up the road is a chateau, and it had come from the chateau. And it wasn't a chasse dog, it was a Newfoundland, young. Oh God, it was absolutely devastating. So when you've lost several flocks, and over the years we've lost hens to a queen getting in, what happens is you learn where your vulnerabilities are after the event, which is really, really annoying. But we do feel that we have now covered all the possible vulnerabilities, which is why that big window opening in the hen coop is so well wired. It is to keep the queen out, so and nothing should get through there. So when the chickens are in the hen coop itself, they are safe. When they're out in the 2 runs, they are safe probably 99% of the time, but never say never. So I've had an incubator. I've hatched lots of chickens and raised chickens, or had them hatched beneath broodies. It's very exciting. We love it. If you look back, if you search on my videos, there's a lovely one of new chicks dust bathing. It's really lovely. They're only days old, and they're out with their mum dust bathing on top of the old compost heap, which is nice and dusty, and they're just dust bathing with mum. It is just so lovely to watch. And that's mum is a black Brahma. I don't think that's the black Brahma we've got. I think she might be the mother of this black Brahma. This black Brahma might be one of these babies if you search it. So they are, as far as I can recall, and just off the top of my head, the realities of chicken keeping. I hope it's been useful, and thanks for watching, and enjoy your eggs.